Dum, 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 dum. And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Yo, we're back for another Thursday night, leading you to
Yeah.
Thursday night football. A big game tonight between two crappy teams. But oh well, you're here with us. Yo, this is the Sports is My Love Language podcast, and I'm here with the crew. And guess what? We're still going down the path less traveled. We're still being our own path. We're not addressing what's in the mainstream media. What we're doing is we're definitely attacking the here and now topics that just aren't covered to the fullest or aren't discussed. But I know based on people that I talk to, based on my Facebook feed, based on the friends that I have, that we all are interested in. So we figured we bring you here tonight. You guys join us. We chime in, we start talking, and we let you guys know our opinion. Everybody's here with the crew. I got Petey Pablo, UCG, my man Dre, Javito, and we'll be joined by AK in a minute. Other than that,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, this is the crew. Let's start it off. All right, so the first topic of the night. I think I'm going to put this one in the hands of my man UCG because he has such a strong opinion on it. And like just to give it a pre, ladies and gentlemen, get ready because I put this as a question on my personal Facebook about 2 years ago, and 100 comments later, we still didn't get an answer. So
Right.
let's just drop it. Let's just start it right there. Okay, UCG, let us know.
All right. So Eli Manning, Hall of Famer or not, right? Career 500, 118 wins, 118 losses. That's Eli for you. So,
Right.
but he has two Super Bowl rings. The greatest dynasty ever, and which will probably never happen again. You
Right.
can never say the Patriots without saying Eli Manning, and you have to say it twice. So at the end of the day, Eli Manning is a person that will go down in the Hall of Fame because of the two Super Bowl rings. Because all the quarterbacks, I have a list of all the quarterbacks who have 2+ rings, all in the Hall of Fame. Bart Starr,
Right.
Staubach, Greasy, Plunkett, Elway, Roethlisberger, Manning, Aikman, Bradshaw, Montana, Brady, and Brady's not retired yet. So these are all the quarterbacks with 2+ rings. Why would Eli not be in the Hall of Fame? Now, I'm a Giants fan. I'm not a Eli, lover. I will not defend Eli. My boy Javito is going to argue with me on that, and I'm ready for it. So Eli Manning, if you discount maybe 3 or 4 seasons, horrible quarterback. Can't even complete passes to his receivers, although his percentages are not bad. Often missing receivers by giving them a pass where they had to make a play, or it was behind but they caught it, or it wasn't in momentum where they catch and keep going. And that's what's frustrated me as a Giants fan throughout my fandom of watching the Giants play and Eli Manning play. So many times in that Super Bowl where the helmet catch happened, had it not been for Eli missing an open receiver on that very first drive, Giants were going to go on and score that very first drive. So Eli was holding the Giants back from a blowout to the 18-0 undefeated Patriots, a blowout. However, blowout did not happen. He prevailed at the end of the game. So for me, Eli Manning is a Hall of Famer, but I would have still taken Phillip Rivers, which is another topic. Go ahead.
I mean,
I'm thinking that you're saying that he is a Hall of Famer, right?
right, because I kind of fell in between that too towards the
Yeah.
end.
All right. So let me just make the what I think. I think he's borderline. All right. And I'm going to go borderline based off what I saw in his career. I always based Eli's career as 2 football careers. The first half of his career, Hall of Famer. Last half of his career, nowhere near the Hall of Fame. So if we're going to make an average out of that, that's why I say he's a borderline Hall of Famer to me. Now, you're absolutely right. I think a lot of these quarterbacks make it to the Hall of Fame because of, let's just say, the Super Bowl rings, right? Case in point, I'm going to go back into the 70s, and I know I get it from Jet fans, but Joe Namath has horrible statistics when it comes to touchdown to interception ratios, all right? But he's in the Hall of Fame. So now I go back and now I look at Eli's career, and I know he has way more touchdowns than interceptions. So I'm just there just based off of that, and 2 Super Bowl rings. Okay, he makes the Hall of Fame. But if we're gonna really go and take a look at his wins, he's right at the average point, right? He's 500. So I go back to borderline. So that's why I just have a hard time just saying he's a Hall of Famer for sure. I saw on the last half of his career where it felt like Odell Beckham was just constantly making plays for Eli to basically look good, as opposed to when his first half of the career, he did have good receivers, but it just felt like it was all like Eli was coming into play. After that second Super Bowl ring, I just don't know. After that, I didn't see that same Eli anymore. And because of that, I'll just stay at he's a borderline Hall of Famer.
But he's a Hall of Famer. So the question is, are you a Hall of Famer or not? And I feel like if you win 2 Super Bowl rings, that's it. That puts you in a Hall of Fame. And I'm saying that he won those games. Like for those 2 games and those 2 playoff runs, like the San Francisco championship game or even the Green Bay championship game, both those championship games, all the games leading up to it, the actual Super Bowl, Eli Manning was, you could go MVP of the league for those 5 games. He deserved those 2 streaky seasons. You take those away, he had maybe 2 other good seasons, and that's it. He's a horrible quarterback outside of those 2 streaks.
Let me add to that. Without those 2 Super Bowl runs, he doesn't win any playoff games. So let's just take those 2 Super Bowl runs out of the way. He's 0-4 in the playoffs. So that's
and
what I'm like. It's just weird. It's just his career is so weird to me because it's just like I want to say yes, but I also say no. So that's why I say he's borderline. And I agree with you, but at the same time, I disagree as to just saying yes, he's a Hall of Famer. The 2 Super Bowl rings will probably get him in, but I just feel like if you're Hall of Fame material, your whole career has to be Hall of Fame to me.
I feel that, and I agree with you on that, but I don't think anyone would disagree with me on this. Tom Brady, 6 rings. I mean, people are anointing him as greatest of all time because of the rings.
You are not comparing
for another day.
What Eli Manning has done in his career. Yo, let me tell you something. Give me if you bullet to your head, you had to choose Eli Manning in the last 2 minutes of a game or Tom Brady. Is it even close?
It's not close.
See, but that's not factual because as far as statistics, Eli's second all time in fourth quarter tying or go ahead touchdowns. Second to Drew Brees. He has 44. Tom Brady has 36. So our eye test would tell us Tom Brady, but statistically, Eli's better in those situations.
I mean, I'll just go to that second Super Bowl run. That second Super Bowl run. That second Super Bowl run, that whole year, it felt like Eli was coming back in the fourth quarter all the time. And that's why I was just there like, we got this guy for years. Oh, we're going to win another 3 to 4. And after that, it never happened. And that's why I'm just there like, I feel like I've been disappointed.
That's because when you're with Eli, you're playing from behind for a lot of the game.
Right.
I think that's a great stat, Dre, but I like it almost makes you wonder, was Tom Brady even losing 40 times going into the fourth quarter?
There you go, right?
I mean, he's known most of his Super Bowls.
He was losing 36.
Most of his Super Bowls are comebacks.
Yeah, no question. But a lot of those years, I mean, even the years he lost to the Giants, it was close in the Super Bowl when it necessarily wasn't supposed to be. You know, obviously after the Rams, like that, they were the underdog. But Carolina, they were supposed to work. Philly, they didn't. I mean, we didn't have any real work for them in that first Super Bowl. But my question is Eli Manning, like, is he Nick Foles or Joe Flacco just did it twice? Right? Like, you know what I mean?
Nah,
like
he's not because
I don't know.
Ahead, sorry.
He's not a game manager. You see, that's where we all kind of come, because that's where the confusion comes from. You see, he's not a game manager. He's above a game manager, right? But we've seen him fumble the shit so many times that he gets frustrating. So he's not like on that elite tier. He's not that Peyton Manning, that Drew Brees. He's not that Tom Brady, right? But then he doesn't drop to the level of what do you call it, Trent Dilfer,
that's why I didn't say Trent Dilfer or Brad Johnson. I said 2 guys who legit balled in the playoffs. Like they weren't game managers in those 2 playoffs. They were chucking the ball downfield. They were like when Baltimore won that championship, their biggest tight end receiver was their tight end, Sharp, right? Like they couldn't throw down the field. It was remarkable. And you can argue the same thing with Tampa Bay. But what Foles and what Flacco did was be the best quarterback in the postseason.
Right. I'm gonna try to introduce a new perspective to this whole conversation. Eli Manning had 210 consecutive starts, bro.
So he's an Iron Man.
Not just that. The Hall of Fame is a combination of everything. Everything taken into consideration. Meanwhile, he hasn't been the New York style of quarterback. He hasn't gotten in any trouble either. Do they look at the film or do they look at the stats on paper?
So here's what I think. Logically,
let's stop right there. Let me go over some comments that people have been dropping.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a Cowboys fan talking mostly.
Yeah,
We don't need to worry about that.
Yeah, Nick. Nice headphones, hobby. Right? Sean Smith. Good morning, everyone. Eli was carried by Strahan and Tuck. Ooh. Later, JPP. Judge.
Cowboys fan. Why are we listening to a Cowboys fan?
Yeah.
We don't. None of us here like Cowboys.
I mean, you have to understand about Eli carried. So the first Super Bowl the Giants won. I mean, we can all conclusively agree if the NASCAR package, if that defensive scheme that the Giants had for that Super Bowl, if that game plan wasn't in place and that execution wasn't in place, Eli wasn't going to hang with Brady dropping 40 in that Super Bowl. That was never going to happen. So for him to win that Super Bowl, it had to be on the defense, and the defense had to carry him and win that Super Bowl. So the second Super Bowl, I feel the defense was slightly inferior to the first defense, but it was still a good enough defense. And had Brady completed that one pass to Welker, because, if I'm the GOAT, I'd be on this shoulder, not that shoulder, and Welker catches it, game over. So, he kind of did it to himself.
I love these emotional fueled conversations, which is why I love doing this podcast. Because Mike, you know where I'm coming from. I'm going to just come from the numbers. 60% career passing percentage, 8th in passing, 9th in passing touchdowns, 9th in completions, 2 Super Bowls, 2 MVPs. Yes, he has a career 117 and 117 record. I personally do not count wins and losses as a quarterback stat. So it's not in my formula to assess someone, because a win or a loss is a team thing in football. Because if really quick, my reason for that is, if you're going to count a loss against a quarterback, then you better tell me that all those losses were because the quarterback lost that game and not because a defense gave up a drive at the end of the game. Because it's either a team loss or it's a quarterback stat. But you better be able to prove that it was because of the quarterback that they won and lost every single one of those games. So I don't count win-loss record as my opinion on the capacity or the greatness or the legacy or how good a quarterback is, unless you want to really sit down and break down every single game that they've played. But everything else on paper says he's a Hall of Famer. Now, do I think he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer? Probably not. More than likely. The emotional Giants fan in me would like to, because of what he did. He did bring 2 Super Bowls to us, and he made 2 clutch plays in each of those games to win it. So I think on paper, by the numbers, he's a Hall of Famer. And I looked up these stats, and I look at who's above him and below him in that top 20. I see quarterbacks in there that have never won a Super Bowl, and all they did is rack up stats. So in this case, Eli Manning's in the middle of that pack of group of quarterbacks that have won Super Bowls and not won Super Bowls and have racked up a lot of stats.
Right.
He's got a little bit of both worlds. And you're going to sit there and tell me that someone with that type of resume doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame?
And pedigree.
Yeah, that's going to count.
But this whole conversation about Eli is why I always say that this is a team sport, because Eli Manning won 2 Super Bowls. He's in a Hall of Fame. And there's so many other quarterbacks who didn't win 2 Super Bowls, who Eli would be ranked higher than when they don't have enough Super Bowls. Dan Marino, less Super Bowls. Peyton Manning, equal amount of Super Bowls. I mean, this is my whole argument with any quarterback, regardless of, if their initials are TB or not. What I'm saying to you is that if you have a lot of Super Bowls, it's a team game. You can't appoint someone GOAT just for that. Otherwise, Robert Horry is the GOAT of basketball.
All right, hold on. I want to hear from AK, because he's a resident Eagles fan. From the outside looking in, what do you think?
Who cares about that? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, first of all, since I know the Giants have struggled, I'm going to beat myself up and say, welcome to the Giants of the Major League Baseball. Longest drought in the National League for the playoffs are the Phillies, which we are terrible. So I just wanted to get that out the way, admit it. Okay.
As a Mets fan, that's a great thing.
I'll tell you from an Eagles perspective, and both years I remember, obviously first year, nobody thought he was going to do it. And then the second year, they were going up against a 17-0 team. I mean, both, it was remarkable Super Bowl runs. If I was a Giants fan, I mean, that's how I would have wanted to win, as opposed to being 13-3 first seed. I mean, it was remarkable, and Eli played an enormous hand in that. When I look at him, and you kind of, I think you guys would agree to some extent, you compare to the quarterbacks of the era, right? So you have Peyton and you have Tom, and then you have everybody else, arguably Drew Brees, of course. So I'll make a comparative with Donovan. In my opinion, without question, for a good 4 to 5 years, Donovan McNabb was the third best quarterback in the NFL after Peyton and Tom. They talked about Culpepper for a little bit here, but he was the third best quarterback in the league, in my opinion. I'm not sure he's Hall of Fame because he couldn't do what Eli did in the end. He couldn't do it in 4 conference championships. He couldn't do that. And I see your argument that makes you a Hall of Fame player. I get it, and especially at that position. But it's a tough call for me. I agree with both Javito and Uzi. It's a borderline call because we were never scared of Eli Manning. We were worried about Plaxico. We were worried about that pass rush. We were worried about a lot. We weren't really scared about Eli Manning, but we also weren't in the end of the game saying, "Oh, I'm completely comfortable. They got Eli. They're going to mess this up." He seemed to me like a above average quarterback for most of his career. Even the years that he won the Super Bowl during the regular season, he seemed like maybe top 10. And if you're a top 10 quarterback in your time, is that a Hall of Fame quarterback? Like, there wasn't a year. I thought people were nuts when a couple of my friends who were Giants fans started saying Eli's better than Peyton because he has 2. At the time, Peyton had 1.
I don't know about that. Yeah.
Has 1. Drew Brees has 1. Right? Like, I may not be giving a fully succinct answer. My answer is, in this case, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. What is it that you truly value the most? Is it that guy that could come in when your team keeps it close, fights a hell of a game, he hasn't played all that well, but gets it done in the clutch in those 2 most special moments? Or is it somebody that I think Javito said this, where you're consistently good, like you're a Hall of Fame player? You know, you're going out there and you're legit a Hall of Fame player, meaning you're one of the top people at your position throughout the year all year. He's not that. So I suspect the fantastic argument is it's 2 Super Bowls, not 1. I suspect he'll get in, but I suspect McNabb won't get in. And there's no question in my mind McNabb was a better quarterback. No,
I don't believe McNabb was a better quarterback, and I'll tell you why.
You have to watch them play.
I mean, I've seen it's my division. I've seen a lot of his games. I've been following him since Syracuse and college days. So McNabb in that Super Bowl, I felt that I was watching, Hurts against the Cowboys last week. Like, he could not complete passes. Like, T.O. was frustrated. Like, I didn't feel like I was watching an NFL quarterback in that Super Bowl. And if it wasn't for McNabb, you guys should have won that Super Bowl against Brady. It should have been yours. McNabb did not deliver in his pass accuracy in that Super Bowl and cost you that Super Bowl single-handedly, in my opinion.
And T.O. had 920 from 122. He got the ball.
Let me just get involved with this Donovan conversation, just veering off the Eli. I do think Donovan McNabb was a very good quarterback. What I did see was a lot of inconsistencies out of Donovan's throws. And I think that was one of the major reasons why they lost in the Super Bowl, because he just couldn't make the throws that he needed to, right? And Eli did make those throws. That's the one thing I did give Eli in those runs. He made the throws, all right? And I think because of that, the Giants fans that are basically very passionate about him making it to the Hall of Fame is because they remember those throws that he did make, like the ones to Mario Manningham. You know what I'm saying? Even the lucky catch by what's his name? Tyree. But let's keep on going. The passes against the Falcons. You know what I'm saying? That he threw to Hakeem Nicks and straight. The even though it was a jump ball, Eli's the one throwing them against the Packers. He right before the half, that touchdown basically sealed the deal. Like you kind of you heard that win out of that stadium,
hanging in there in 49ers.
Okay, guys. So I'm gonna jump in on my opinion.
Go for it.
Here's what I'm gonna say. I got a different look on this thing. I'm just approaching it from a whole different way. Here's where I think the debate even starts. Right? And people could agree with me, they might not agree with me. I think the debate starts here. He has the face of a douchebag, like a dork. So right off the rip, people don't see him as a guy who passes the eye test. So that even though he's Eli Manning, even though he does all these good things, even though his numbers support it, for some reason he gets short-handed right off the rip. Okay, I believe that. I don't, you don't have to agree, but I believe that. I believe you look at him, Eli, man. For some reason, sports fans will look at him and be like, dismiss him. But the truth is, he was a killer. Okay.
Yeah.
The second question I have is this, and somebody put it in the comments: if you grab him and you replace him with Phillip Rivers, do they have 2 Super Bowls? Do they have more? Do they have less success? Could you have grabbed another quarterback? If you grab Donovan McNabb and you put him on the Giants, do they win?
No.
If you grab Phillip Rivers, put him on the Giants, do they win? If
4.
you grab
they win 4.
There you go. You put him on the Giants. Do they win? That's the question. And I think here's my take on it. My take on it: will he make the Hall of Fame? Yes. He's football royalty. Okay, that's number one. We can lie to ourselves and say, "Oh, that absolutely plays a role." So he's football royalty. All right, it's good for the league, face of the league, all that. Number 2, he has 2 Super Bowls that he was an integral part of winning. It wasn't like he was a bystander. He was one of the guys to win those Super Bowls. Regardless of
Still don't know how he got out of that sack, man.
Regardless of how you feel about the defense, whatever, he was clutch in those 2. So those stand out from the rip. You know what I mean? He was also the face of that franchise. You could say him and Strahan. Because Tuck was popular, but it wasn't. JPP never was. There was other players that never were. It was Eli, and it was what he called it. They were the faces of the franchise when they won the Super Bowls. So
and
I think all those things go
Twinkle Toes. Call him Twinkle Toes.
Yeah, all those things go
3rd and 1,
play.
he falls.
And to me, he's going to get in. I think he's a second ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I don't think T.O.'s a second ballot, 3rd ballot Hall of Famer. He's a 3rd ballot Hall of Famer. You know what I'm saying? Because they're brother, and T.O.'s a much better wide receiver than I think Eli was a quarterback. That's just my opinion.
Yeah,
But so I think, but positions are also judged differently. Let me tell you, when it comes to the Hall of Fame, I feel like quarterbacks, because of the amount of pressure and the amount of weight they have on their shoulders during the game, they get graded on a curve when it comes to the Hall of Fame. They get graded on a curve. So that Super Bowl weighs crazy heavy. You know what I'm saying? Being the face of the franchise, crazy heavy. All those things come into play. So will he get in? Absolutely, he'll get in. And do I think he should be a 1st ballot Hall of Famer? No, but I think he will get in. And with that, we can always come back to that topic because obviously the audience likes it, and you guys have tons of opinions on it. But let's move on because I want to hit. AK, you dropped a topic on us that I thought was super interesting. You were talking about how analytics actually worked against one of the teams this weekend. And we got into during our pre-production, we started talking about how, whatever happened to the instinct of the game. All right, so go ahead, let us know, fill us in on that, fill the audience in on your thoughts on the analytics versus.
Basically, when I look at the Philadelphia Eagles and what they did in their game plan against the Dallas Cowboys, I think they ran the ball 3 times. Their lead back touched the ball 6 times total. And I kind of wondered even more what was going on behind the scenes. And I did 2 things. You look at the Philadelphia Eagles coaching staff, and you look at a lot of the guys behind the scenes, and they're Harvard analytic guys, right? Like they're Ivy League analytic guys. And then I also looked at the fact that Dallas going into this game, which obviously is a little misleading because you played Brady and the young QB over there from San Diego, Herbert, but they were 31st against the pass. And so we decided that we were going to pass the ball on them because analytics said so. Now you break this down. I mean, we opened up the second half down 20-7, getting annihilated, but only down 20-7. Second play from scrimmage, 24-yard run. We only ran the ball 1 more time. This is the point where I think you have, and again, I think this is also a matter of experience. I think you have a young coach who's saying, okay, analytics, and he doesn't have the experience yet to know that sometimes you got to go away from that and really go on how's the feel for the game, what's there, what's working, what's not working, what's there today, right? And so, ever since the Oakland A's and being they started the analytics, I think there's an absolute place for that. I think it's helpful in preparation. I think it's something you should pay attention to. I think when you dictate your entire game plan around analytics, you're way off, especially in a game like football. I think baseball is also a little bit of an outlier sport because there's numbers and averages mean so much more. Small ball,
Yes.
In football, you got to go and you got to beat the other people up. And there's a difference between letting your offensive line run block and pass block. There's a difference between just how many minutes the defense is on the field. There's a difference between all of these things. So I wonder, and you guys, I'm sure have an opinion on this. I wonder how much of this is a young 30-some-year-old coach with a young 30-some-year-old coordinator, right? Where nobody's really there in his ear to say, hey, man, we get the analytics, but this is what's going on the field. Let's go back to what we're good at. You can't just look at what that team is not good at. You have to look at what you're good at, right? So I think those are my main points I'm going to use to spark the conversation, and I'm sure you guys have some fantastic points after.
Tell me. I watched the movie called Limitless. You ever watch it with Bradley Cooper?
Yeah.
Where he takes the pill and all of a sudden he's a boy genius, right?
Yeah.
There's a scene in that movie, right? And I promise I'm going to make a point where Robert De Niro is face to face with him and he says, you never had that first wife that was the CEO's daughter. You never did this. You never did that. And he's explaining to him that, there's no cutting the process. And in Hollywood, they do their own spin on it. But in real life, that shit hit home because he was talking about, you never got that experience in the gutter. You never had to kiss some ass here. You never had to do this. You never faced adversity here, right? I feel like a lot of these coaches, right, these young coaches, they're leaning on these numbers, but they've never sat in the gutter of a team where they had to look and say, yeah, analytics say this, but I know my man can beat his man at the point of attack.
Right.
You know what I mean? This is where analytics doesn't talk about. That's why it fails. It not doesn't fail. That's why I don't think you could only rely on it in football. In football, there's a lot of times where you have to look at your guys. I remember even back in high school, they would look at us and be like, they know what we're going to do. They know what we're going to do. Now go beat them, right? And there comes a time in football, even on the professional level, where you would look at your guy across from you and say, hey, look, analytics say we should do this. But you know what, man? You get paid X $1 million. You get paid X $1 million. Guess what? Go get it. And you're bigger and stronger than that guy right there. We know you're better than him. You know what I mean? And you'll see it with older coaches, seasoned coaches that have to make. Bill Belichick is the master. Is the master because he follows analytics. With Daniels on offense and defense, but then he'll throw a wrench in it, and he'll say, no, we're going to go against everything the numbers say, and we're going to do this. I remember, what player that completely went against analytics and played on instinct? Troy Polamalu. Pat McAfee always talks about that one play where he was supposed to fake the punt and score and throw a touchdown pass. And for some reason, out of left, Troy Polamalu walks up to the line and says, nah, my instinct says jump over the top and block this shit. And tackle him.
About that, though, like when you say Troy Polamalu, you're talking about the defensive coordinator named Dick LeBeau that was nothing about analytics, though. You know what I'm saying? So
that's the point I'm making. Exactly.
Okay. So but going to AK's point, I'll go back to that same game that he's talking about, Philly versus the Cowboys. I didn't get it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I get that the Cowboys were dead last in pass defense, but that's not your strength as a Philadelphia Eagles organization right now. You got a good RPO kind of quarterback that's better on a run. You know what I'm saying? That's better on making plays, at the spur of the moment, but, not to the point of just dropping back and throwing passes, right? Now, he touched on the point about baseball, and on baseball, sometimes I'm just there it works very well when you're composing the team for 162 games, right? It's a long season, so I get the analytics there. But when we're talking about analytics at a point of a game, that's where I get a little frustrated, right? Sometimes, I'm a Yankee fan, and I see they throw Aroldis Chapman. The last 2-3 games, he's just blowing a save. I mean, I understand you're trying to get him back on track, but you know what? If we're going to start using analytics and instead of feel, well, there's something that you could do. The last 3 games analytically has just told you the guy's not there yet. And the field should already told you right there as well, he's not there yet. So what are you to use there? You know what I'm saying? Are you using analytics? Are you using the field? And now if I go into basketball, I see how they're using analytics, and I like it. I like what they're trying to do. They're trying to understand where these guys are strengths are. But that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to use analytics towards your strengths, not towards the other team's strengths. You know what I'm saying? So you're supposed to create your analytics to basically make sure that your team becomes stronger, not because the other team is weak at something. You could try to use that in a way, but I think it's more analytic is driven on your own strength and try to make it stronger. And that's where I'll stay with that. Whoever wants to jump.
This is a classic case of you got older coaches, and I'll stick to the NFL right now for that. Older coaches that played it the way it's always been, feel the game, what's going on, things like that. Versus, like you said, AK, Philly's got these 30-something-year-olds, right, using it, and it's utterly stupid the gap that sits between both of those sides. The old school coaches built the analytics because they're the ones that have been coaching for a long time. It was all their decisions over a period of time. And the analytics people are just saying, here's your total of all the shit you've done, coaches, over all this period of time. We didn't make this shit up. You did this shit. You know what I'm saying? So that's why, I'll defend the analytics on that perspective. But you're right, AK. That's where now the analytics folks that don't have the football experience can't see the feel of that game. I hope that like coaches like Sirianni, who's young, hopefully stays in the league and coaches and then starts to see the football in the NFL over time, that he can sit there down the road and say, right now in this play or in this drive or whatever, maybe it says that analytics will say to do this, but you know what? I see my two guards and my center just dominating their tackles, their D tackles. And I'm going to run it down their goddamn throat right now.
Right.
Because to your point, to your example, okay, coming back 20-7, if they run it down their throat and they go down and score, they have momentum. And that defense will come out like, look at these guys just came out balling, they ran it down their throats, man. Come on, let's go get this ball back for them. That's a huge part of football. Baseball, I think analytics works a little more in baseball because to me, an emotionless game. I'm not I do like to watch. I prefer to go to baseball games but not watch it on TV because I fall asleep. So I think it works a lot better there. Overall, there's not really, as compared to football anyways, so many strategic decisions, except maybe on the pitching side and maybe you shift some guys over. Other than that, you're not really strategizing like I think you do in football, where you should be strategizing more. Who are you going to attack? You're going to attack this defender, or you're going to attack the offensive lineman in this match. There's so much more strategy going on in different places at all times compared to like baseball that I think analytics works a little better there, in my opinion, on it.
For me, this is no knock on guys that never played sports, who analyze sports. But to me, it's a simple solution to this. Guys who are in analytics should have played that sport at a high level, because analytics are only a percentage of what happens in a game. Most of the stuff is situational. Like you just said, phantom momentum from an offense just scoring a rushing touchdown. Defense is going to come out now, and somebody's going to get extra energy to go after the quarterback all of a sudden.
Yeah, I have a question for you, Dre. Dre and Javi, I got a question for you, but I don't mean to interrupt, but is analytics as big in like a sport like soccer?
Kinda is, but in more of dead ball plays, because you can't control in the run of play. But dead ball plays, they're bringing this guy. He likes to go in the far post. He's the one that's probably going to come to the penalty spot to get the corner kick. This guy kicks his penalty to the right side. He opens up. This other guy, he closes up. He goes across his body. Like, they have that stuff. Goalies have that stuff written on their bottles of water on the way to the penalty shootout. But analytics in soccer can't work because coaches are brilliant, not that they're not brilliant in other sports. And if you set up something, we'll just counter what you set up.
That's a great question, Dre. Let me ask you one more on that, if you don't mind. How much of analytics are played into their substitution patterns?
A lot. It actually would be like a trigger effect. Like, one coach would be waiting for another coach to put one guy in. He'll already know the substitute he's going to make and the adjustment he's going to make. So it'll be like a cat and mouse game, kind of, because fresh legs in the game, however, fresh legs could change a game. And especially if that person has been watching the game and watching how he can come in and impact the game before he gets in there. That's a dangerous weapon.
I'm sorry, last question on this. Dre, do coaches look at it like, okay, this is the way that the game is going, this is the feel of the game, so this would be my best substitute? Or is it just pre-planned from analytics? All right, we know that this player is going in at this time to because of their strengths or weaknesses on paper?
It is completely the first one.
Okay.
Completely the first one. Flow of the game. That's why you got to be open as a coach. If somebody got you figured out, get the pride out of the way and burn the house down and go to another plan, man, because you'll lose that game.
But here's the thing about soccer that kind of like, makes it a little bit even more weird.
Right.
There's ties, right? So that makes it a little bit more different. Like you could end up the game and it just be a tie game. So there's an analytics behind it. Like, let's just say if the game is in the 75th minute, right? There's 15 minutes left and it's a tie ball game. The team that knows that it's basically, let's just say a little bit less offensively is prone to be more defensive, right? So they analytically just said, we're not the better offensive team. So what we're going to do is we're just going to like lay back and just try to defend throughout the whole time.
Right. Basically, the team that's going to win with that tie.
Yeah.
The team that's going to take that tie home like a victory.
Yeah.
They're going to park the bus.
That's it.
And everybody's getting back there because they want to protect this one point.
They're saying, we're not going to lose. That's it.
Right.
We're fine with the tie.
And the better offensive team is sending defenders forward on overlaps.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to tie this game. So you're right. You're right. It's definitely situational.
And again, the game at the beginning, let's just say the lesser team on offense scores at the beginning, changes the whole complexion of the game. Changes the whole complexion of the game.
Changes everything. And it happens often. It happens often.
That's when that's like what Pablo just said. Boring. But because the other team is just going to defend that, you just stay like, can somebody score already? And it just becomes that much harder to score because the analytics say, we're not going to score again. Let's go back and defend and try to keep this 1-0 the whole game.
Man, that must be frustrating if for the diehard soccer fans that get that deep in the analysis of how teams are doing, because you may sit there and say, there's openings, what the hell you guys are doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, why can't you get there, right?
If you're a team that's like on the losing side, you're just there like just make that goal. It's easy. And that's easy for me being at my chair. Right. You know what I'm saying? Because it's really not that easy. You know what I'm saying?
It's like when I'm watching football on TV and you see, why didn't you see that guy over there? Like, what do what the hell are you doing, quarterback?
And that's what I'm talking about. These are the things that analytics don't take into account. Exhaustion, cramping. Somebody gets the heart knocked out of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Somebody made a good point. In a sport like NASCAR, they say analytics is king in NASCAR. But I could see that because you're dealing with a machine, you're typing in numbers, know what to say.
It's exact science.
Right. At what corner, if your engine is hitting, I don't know the sport, but if your engine is hitting X amount RPMs at one corner, what the likelihood of you know what I'm saying, what position you're in. I could see all that because it takes human emotion out of it. I think when you solely rely on analytics, right?
You're just an executioner.
Right. As opposed to looking at people and just saying, oh, shit, my center's exhausted, bro. Or my center's been dealing. And here's the other thing. I have a question. I don't know this. So this is a question to you guys. Do analytics count injury?
No, I mean, you have to go how much deeper. Like, I think that's
really, yeah.
But I'm just going to mention that I have a trouble calling something a sport when the performance is really based upon a machine.
I wanted to say that too. Thank you, AK.
You know what? I'm going to write that down because we're going to come back to that.
It's a car.
It's a car.
It's a car. All right. Does that make everybody in the world that drives an athlete now?
Right.
Am I an athlete if I play Grand Theft Auto and I'm really good at it?
One more thing to add before I forget. because the reason soccer is so different, AK, is because you're the most vulnerable in attack, and you got to attack to score goals. In football, your offense is on the field. You're vulnerable because they could get a pick six or a fumble or something like that. But it's less likely than a team blocking your attack and countering on your less guys that you have in your half and scoring a counterattack goal in soccer. So in soccer, you're more vulnerable in attack.
I thought your exchange was really interesting with Javito, and it made me think it sounds a lot like a college basketball team not as good who's hanging with a powerhouse. Like towards the end, they're just holding the ball is what they're using.
And you give those coaches credit. Yeah, you give those coaches credit because they figure out ways. Listen, we stop this guard. We guard him 94 feet, or I don't know if it's the same length of the court. And they figure out ways. You box out, you come in and you do a little chip and you help box. And there's ways. We see it all the time in the NCAA tournament. That's why that's still my favorite tournament to watch.
You can't really do that in football. I mean, if you don't get a first down, the other team gets the ball back.
That's it.
Waste so much time.
Yes,
that's it.
I mean, we could go right back, like really quick. This past 2 days ago, Real Madrid lost to Sheriff. All right, like that is the biggest upset right now in Champions League history. History. You're talking about a team that's valued at $13 million, Sheriff, as opposed to multiple billion-dollar Real Madrid losing at home.
That's not even the last guy on the bench's salary.
Yeah, like the Real Madrid B team is more worth than the team that they just lost to.
Yes, that's a fact.
That's the thing with soccer, just becomes that much different because when that team only took 3 shots the whole game and they made 2 goals. Real Madrid took 31 shots and only made 1. That's soccer for you. You win with goals.
I never even heard of Sharif, but Javito looks like he could be a Sharif with that.
the eventual winner of the France World Cup 1998, France. Their first game was against an African country, Senegal. It was their first time at the World Cup. Bright-eyed guys, fouling a lot because they're over-aggressive. They tied France that day, the opening day of the World Cup. They got annihilated by their other members of their group, showing you that they rose for that one game and they couldn't find it for the rest of the rounds.
That emotion.
They tied the best team in the tournament and outplayed them. France got lucky to tie that game. And then you saw Senegal the next game, and you're like, no.
And this is not the team that tied France. It's like, listen, that's something analytics couldn't measure. But check this out. So sometimes, right, when you're going live, somebody throws something on your lap, right?
Right.
And I would be remiss to let it slide because it's so organic, the conversation, and it's attached to a lot of what we kind of already touched on it a little bit, and you guys segued in it so smoothly that I think today's hot take, if you forgive me on this one, because I know we're going to talk about that, I think we could push that, is going to be what constitutes a sport? What constitutes a sport? What constitutes a sport? Is NASCAR a sport? Is golf a sport? Is there a difference? What is your definition of a sport as opposed to, let's say, an athletic venture or an athletic feat? Or is there a difference, or do you agree?
It's a slippery slope, this one. Because you can't say contact because swimming and tennis are sports. Yeah. So you can't lean to your masculinity for this answer.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point.
This answer has to be about the mental stress and the bond between a coach and a single player or a player as a member of a team, the journey and the work put in and the feeling of the achievement.
Okay. So I'm going to name a sport, and you tell me if it's. I'm going to name something. Better yet, I'm going to name something, and you're going to let me guys go around. Let me know if it's a sport. Golf.
Yes.
Golf is a sport.
Can I say something in regards to it? I'm just going to read you the definition of sport. An activity involving physical exertion and skill in which an individual or team competes against another or others for entertainment. So
then checkers is a sport.
Golf is a sport. Checkers is a sport.
Hey man, you're talking enough shit in checkers, bro. It's gonna get heated.
Well, so basically,
wait a minute.
The
Video
word
gaming is a sport then.
Correct.
It's an e-sport. It's considered an e-sport.
If it's a sport, it does not make you an athlete. There's a big difference, right? So let me tell you something. If you're pressing a couple of buttons sitting on a chair, that's not the same.
That you hit it on the head. My bad. You hit it on the head, Usman. Are you an athlete? Are they athletes? That's the better question. You're right.
Is an offensive lineman an athlete?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, then how's a NASCAR driver not athlete?
Because he's driving a car. He's not pushing
driving
somebody.
a car, but doing a lot of it. Okay, stay up for 20 hours straight driving those big, those European events that they have. I mean, that takes a lot of practice. That takes a lot of composure, a lot of skill.
And I believe that the cockpit of a car gets to like 107, 108 degrees while you're driving.
And
so the skill outside, by the way.
The skill in that is
you're risking life.
The skill in that is operating at 4 times the speed that we drive at on the highway.
Of course.
Operating.
And if you had Taco Bell for lunch before you drove, that's kind of,
that's the skill in it, bro. I mean, for me, NASCAR is a sport, man.
It is.
It has to be. It draws fans. They barbecue in the parking lot. Listen,
you have to make strategic decisions while driving. I mean, as you're trying to
500.
They have
it's one of the biggest things I've ever seen. That thing is
seriously,
huge,
bro.
The event is huge. I'm not.
It's a big deal.
I mean, that I get, but like, I just can't come out and just say it's a sport for some reason. I just don't feel comfortable enough to say that's a sport. I don't know why.
I got you.
It's just one of those things that I just never looked at Jimmy Johnson or Dale Earnhardt and said, look at that guy, bro. That guy, that's a sport because that guy gets in that car and drives at 200 miles per hour. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I'm just not, I can't really like dig that and say, oh, that's a sport to me. Is it something that's
I could look at Javito and say that sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, bro. You could say it, man.
I could look at Javito and say he's not playing basketball right now. I could look at Dre and say he's not playing soccer right now. I can't look at Petey and say without the background he's not driving a car in NASCAR right now.
You know what, bro? Petey.
And I live in Miami, so everything's erased on here. You know what I'm saying? So,
but no, I look. If competition derives a sport, then yes, sure, it's a sport. But and OCG, great point. Like, you are changing gears and things like that. But I think like they're not Joe Gibbs Racing is not picking the next driver through their 40 metrics or weightlifting, how many times they can bench press 225. You know what
Someone
I mean?
just made a really good
comment.
But
that you still have to be in shape. So like you're driving for hours and hours and
you have to train.
I mean, you have to train.
Your motor learning and your mental has to be
physical
on
shape enough.
So someone just made a comment.
Has to be on point.
Someone just made a comment and it says horseback riding. Is the use of an animal the same as the use of a car in a sport?
I agree. I kind of feel the same way with it. Like, horseback riding to me, I don't look at the person.
I know that horse is in shape.
That's what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about.
Horseback riding is too general. Are we talking about horse racing or equestrian?
I was just looking at
because those would be the sports. I understand.
If you're out in the country just trotting around, no, I mean you're not
right.
But if you say I got $100 on you, I'll beat you.
Equestrian is tough. Equestrian is tough. Equestrian is commanding a horse to do certain things at a certain specific time. Like, I get into that during the Olympics because to me it's crazy. I don't know how.
So check this out. So I got a question for you guys. If golf is a sport, is bowling a sport?
Bowling's a sport, bro. You never got into the PBA?
I fucking love bowling.
Me too.
Side note, I absolutely love bowling, bro.
That's like shit, bro. Javi's like, yo, I can't stand these guys.
Yo, what about
based on the legal definition? They're all
I'm with bowling. I'm with bowling.
Right.
Yo, what
Pole
about
sport?
those competitions where the trainers with the dog running around all over the the little competitions they do with the dogs and the owners running around with them? Is that a
It's
sport?
a good point. Like those are sports, but the animals
The
are the ones that are
kennel
the
show.
athletes.
Yeah.
That's more of an exhibition.
We got some
Michael
comments.
Vick's dogs are
hold on.
athletes, right?
Yeah,
Hey,
they
guys,
keep
let's
up
go
with
to the
that little
comments real
chihuahua,
quick.
in
You
that
know
little
how
obstacle course.
ESPN sometimes throws the Ocho?
Yeah.
And they have all these weird like competitions like
Cornhole.
tag. Like
Right.
I consider that more of a sport than freaking you driving 200 miles per hour. I don't know why.
I got you, man.
You know what I'm saying?
I got you,
I don't
bro.
know why. I just feel that's more of a sport.
All right,
I
guys,
got
we're gonna go to some comments. Nikia Cook, these aren't the cars we drive daily. There's no power steering or traction control. I will tag the workout regimen that the 7-time Formula One champion goes through. You would think he's training for football or soccer. Okay,
Right.
that's a fair point. Okay. Horseback riding is the use of an animal and the same as the use of a car in sports. Okay, yeah, the same question we had.
That's fine. That's
Cicero
fine.
says, I think the level of focus and time for preparation, level of ability above anyone else, can make car racing a sport.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
The
so
last
Mike
one
Vick,
is good too, Mike. Yeah, that one.
somebody's ruthless, bro. So Mike Vick's dogs are athletes, right?
I was gonna say that though. Is dog fighting a sport? Is cockfighting a
Right.
sport then?
No.
The athletes
Rest
are
in
not the
peace.
humans. They're coaches.
Man,
So-
I'm not
Okay,
going
I
with
have one
either.
for you guys. So we have this thing in Trinidad every year. It's only once a year. So I want to know if this could be considered a sport. It's called the Great Race. All the fishermen, they trade out their engines and put speed engines in their boats, man, and they just between Trinidad and Tobago, it's a race, like 200 boats. It draws a big crowd. It's like one of our main sources of tourism and stuff like that. Is that a sport, boat racing?
Here's my opinion. I think they are sports, but those are not athletes.
Athletes. Yeah.
But those are not athletes.
That's what
two
I
different
believe.
conversations. It's
Right.
two different topics.
That's what I think. That's what I think the original conversation should have been. It shouldn't be about whatever. It should be, are these guys athletes?
Yeah.
Are those competitors considered athletes?
Right. Are they athletes? You know what I'm saying?
My opinion is I'd rather see the athlete than the car do more of the work. Even though it's the human that's controlling it, show me the athlete, because I'm seeing something out of them physically.
It's motorized.
You know what I'm
it's
saying?
motorized.
Yeah. Like, you know, using the car, you're still using the car. Yes, you got to be in shape, all that, but you're still using the car to get you your win.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
The bat is dead. A ball is dead.
I don't know, man. It's just
Can you imagine
the car is turned on. Yeah.
In the future, NFL players had to design their own exoskeleton, right? Like they were basically controlling.
I just can't. I can't deal with this, man. I can't deal with this, man.
You're playing just the game of Madden from now on.
Javi's old school, man. Javi's old school with athletic competition. He would love the Olympics back in Greece, back when they first doing it. Two guys wrestling,
when they would kill you. Like if you die, you lost, right?
Yeah, some of those, yeah.
All right, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do is we're going to close out the topics. We're going to lead you into Thursday night's game in about 3 minutes. Here's the deal. Everybody going around. We're going to drop our predictions and a score. We'll post them on our group page. Let your people know about us, man. It's the Sports is My Love Language podcast. We meet you every Thursday leading into the Thursday night game. We're going to be posting regularly on our page, memes, comments, polls, opinions, off the cuff type of things. You're going to see it there. Come join us. We definitely want your opinion. We want you to share our content. We want you to chime in here on this podcast. Pretty soon, we're going to be transferring a lot of our files over to Google, the Spotify, so you'll be able to find us there as well. Here's it goes. We're going to go around. Petey Pablo tonight. Bengals.
Yes, the traditional two powerhouse, organizations, the Bengals and the Jaguars. I'm gonna go 34-17. A little bit over the line, which I think is like 46 points. I took the over on that, put some money on that. That's probably why the reason I'm going a little high on the score. No, but I think that since the offense is good, even though T. Higgins is not playing today, I think with Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd and
Jamar Chase bullshit everybody at the beginning of the year when he's talking about that he couldn't catch the ball and all that shit. He's been on a tear.
No, I think that was taken out of context. Actually, I think I read a little more into it, but yeah. And I just need also, I need James Robinson on the Jaguars to score tonight too. But
Usman, what you got?
So the over-under, I'm going under as well. I'm going under, unlike you. I'm going 24-17. I'm going to have the 7.5 spread for Bengals. So Jags are going to cover the spread, lose only by 7.
Ooh, that's good money.
Carlos Hyde may not be playing, but Robinson's getting the bulk of the share anyway. I think there's a linebacker missing. Obviously, we talked about Higgins missing. I think Joe Burrow gets to showcase himself on a big stage. This is the one of an opportunity of a lifetime where he's going to be a favorite on a Thursday night game. So I think he comes through after beating Pittsburgh. I don't see how they lose, but upsets can happen. So if someone chooses the Jags, I won't be surprised at you, but I feel 24-17 Cincinnati today.
Abi.
Yeah, so, we're going back to that championship game between Lawrence and Joe Burrow, are we, huh? That's what we're doing tonight.
I'll take that score.
You know what I'm saying? I would love something like that. But obviously the Jacksonville Jaguars are just pretty bad right now. So I'm just Joe Burrow is going to basically do what he needs to do to win the game. Jamar Chase has been basically one of the best wide receivers so far that we've seen this year. I'm thinking it's going to be around 26-17. I think they covered the spread, and maybe Joe Burrow jumps in for a 3-yard touchdown. I don't know. I just like quarterbacks rushing in for touchdowns for some reason.
Andre.
Usman took my score, but then I reevaluated it. Now I think it's going to be even lower than that. I think it's going to
be 20-13.
Yeah, I actually think it's going to be 20-13.
I was between those two scores.
I think it's going to be 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals for the Bengals, and a touchdown and 2 field goals for the Jags.
AK.
There's 3 things in my life I never thought I would say. I plead guilty, Your Honor. Will you marry me? And the Bengals by a blowout.
One of those is the
Bengals by a blowout. I'm stunned, and so there may be hope for the other two. But
that was classic.
I think this is Joe Burrow's coming out party, and I think they're gonna win 31-17. I think Lawrence will put up some points on the board, but I think the Cincinnati Bengals offense is going to continue to get stronger, especially as those offensive linemen continue to grow a little bit.
They're playing better than expected this early.
Yeah. I think they're set at the skill position, and I think Burrow's going to be a good player. I don't think he's going to be maybe Hall of Famer, but I think he's going to be a top 10 quarterback in the league. So
solid quarterback.
Yeah, this should be a good day for.
So I'm gonna drop mine. I think you're giving the Jags way too much credit. They have not found the running game is inept. The quarterback is a rookie, doesn't really show flashes, but it's not really. I think their coach is lost.
Good.
I think the coach is lost.
Good.
So I'm going to go. That. Yeah, I'm going to go 27-10. I don't think they get past 10 points. I'm going 27-10 Bengals. 27-10.
Keep in mind it's the Bengals, right? So let's not forget it's the Bengals. I wanted to make a comment, guys. I never got to talk about the analytics topics. I just want to make one comment about it.
It's Michael, kind of show you running.
So it's all good. So what I wanted to say is the UConn Huskies, Calhoun's great game plan in a championship game. I think it was against North Carolina, I think, or Duke. So that game, they had Rip Hamilton take every single shot. Obviously, fast break, it doesn't count. In a half-court set, every single shot. Obviously, that was analytics, and they won the championship, upset a team that was, I don't know if it was undefeated or one-loss team. So that was a great analytics move that came through, for UConn. So, it's all subjective. In that case, it worked out.
Is that not one of the best college basketball games you've ever seen?
Outstanding. I'm not a UConn fan, but I
can't wait for March Madness to come back in its full effect.
I thought the Villanova versus North Carolina game was freaking out. One of the best ever. 3 to win the game right at the end, game over. Like there's nothing stopping that. Like to me, I was just there like, thank you, because I hate North Carolina and I hate Duke, and I'm like a Big East guy, and I know Villanova's a Big East team. So
Villanova, you remember the Big East?
No, the real Big East, not the
real Big East.
But it's back though. So a lot of the teams are back in the Big East. So it's like maybe it's not the old '80s Big East, but
really quick, one point on that. Rutgers has always sucked at football, but when I was in school and I was a freshman in '97, I literally got to see Mike Vick because Virginia Tech was in Big East. Miami came, and I'm not going to talk too much, Mike, but Miami came, and they came with 5 NFL running backs on one team. Clinton Portis, Frank Gore, Davenport. I forget the other 2 even off the top of my head. It was great. So you got to see the Hurricanes. You got to see even some decent BC teams. Virginia Tech, that Big East was something.
That was the last time they were relevant.
No, the last time they were relevant, they beat Louisville, and everybody rushed the field too soon. All right, fellas, and with that, enjoy the game. See you guys next week. Have fun.
All right,
ladies and gentlemen, and that is the Sports is My Love Language podcast. And we are out of here.